razzle dazzle, we're the best. No, the courts aren't on your side, but they're not on the tenant side either.
Jen!
Like, you are independently wealthy when you are naked.
I am over treating property management the same as real estate sales.
I guess I'll lead the witness. I think it's freaking scammy. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for real estate investors who buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for investors who want to buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. I am Jen. I'm a real estate investor, educator, and advocate, broker at One Focus Property Management, and according to others, a true delight. Joining me today, I have two guests. Jessy Ruelens. She's Director of Operations at One Focus Property Management, my right hand, and the reason we have a modern professional experience at our business. Welcome, Jessy.
Your left-handed right hand.
Yeah, my left-handed right hand. Thank you. And today, even more importantly, we have a guest. My friend, Jeff Wright. He is founder, broker, owner of Foundation First Property Group in Hanover, Pennsylvania. And I've known Jeff and Wendy Wright, that's his wife, who he runs the business with since probably 2018. And we co-founded the Pennsylvania chapter of the National Association of Residential Property Managers. I'm representing with my shirt today. That's NARPM for short. So we co-founded the Pennsylvania chapter together. Interestingly, you started your business in 2012, same year I did, but you didn't start managing for other investors until 2017. And currently your portfolio is over 250 doors. You're managing single family, multifamily, garages, storage units, and even some small commercial spaces. Thank you for joining us, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's awesome. And I know you invest with and run the business with your wife, Wendy. And I'm interested to know who came up with the idea to start investing in real estate. And was it a quick decision or a long decision?
It was a long decision. I kind of say that I am the visionary. I can see far into the future. I just don't know how to get there. And the joke is that Wendy is the anchor that holds me back down and doesn't let me shoot for the stars the way I want to.
I empathize with having an anchor.
I am Wendy. Wendy is I.
So I had visions of being involved in real estate for many years. I didn't know what that would look like. I had grown up with an employee mindset. So when I found out that a real estate agent does not get paid an hourly rate plus commission, it was like, oh, I don't know if I wanted, I'd actually have to put in effort to yield results to get paid, and I'm not sure if I'm comfortable doing something like that. And I looked into investing, and I read a lot of books, and the books is what gave me the confidence to move forward. I don't have analysis paralysis when I'm looking at deals. I run the numbers, I look at everything, and I tilt the odds in my favor, so I feel comfortable moving forward with that deal. And it took a while to explain that to Wendy, and she finally came around to the idea because she felt if it's so easy, if this is all you have to do, why isn't everybody investing in buy and hold real estate? And after we had done a few deals, she saw that it wasn't incredibly difficult, but you do need to run your numbers. You need to be honest with your financial projections, and it just helps to tilt things in your favor.
Yeah, I very much see how that works even in your life today. You know, the hesitancy and the visionary, it's really great. So when did you go from, and tell us, why did you start Foundation First Property Group? The company. So
in 2008 is when we bought our first property. It was a 2-unit. It had a little garage in the back. We did the renovation work ourselves. This was in Hanover, Pennsylvania. We say we're always a year or two behind what's going on the national stage. So you had the housing crisis going on around that time. And in Hanover, Pennsylvania, we're like, what housing crisis? I mean, everything's still moving forward. But there were still foreclosures, and that's what this first property was. And we bought it. vacant, needed work. And so we're there tearing down drywall, swinging hammers, doing all the work ourselves, not having a clue what we're doing, but having a good time. We're landlords now. We're investors now. We're professionals. And after a couple of years, we decided to try our first fix and flip. And we did a couple of those, and they were fine. They worked out well. But our heart, our passion was really into the long-term wealth accumulation of buy and hold real estate. And around 2012, we wanted a more professional facade to get away from the ma and pa landlord appearance that these professional tenants have a tendency to take advantage of. So we weren't looking to hand our portfolio, which was still relatively small at the time, to a management company. We still wanted to be involved in all aspects of it. And that was the first step, to have this facade, have a professional sounding company. We rented a 150 square foot commercial space out of this office building in downtown Hanover. And that's where we would meet tenants to sign leases. That's where they could pay rent. So it wasn't meeting at a Starbucks to sign a lease. It wasn't meeting at the property to sign a lease. It just had this professional appearance.
So you have a small office, you've got a company name. I would assume there's a website. You're probably not working off your cell phones, probably a Foundation First Property Group voicemail or something like that.
Right.
So pretty affordably, you kind of put this legal. I know it was an LLC and you were doing it all properly, but you put this, as you put it, facade up, and you saw a benefit there that you were going to be avoiding risk with maybe tenants who sought to manipulate the system, that they would kind of look at that and go, oh, they're pros.
And it's a way to eliminate that type of tenant from even getting in the door from the first place. There are no doubt professional tenants out there who prey on the individual mom and pop landlord, knowing that they're not going to do a background check, or if they have 3 months worth of rent up front, that individual landlord is likely to say, I'll take it, you're in, I'm not even going to look at anything, and that's the only money they see from those tenants ever again.
That would be a big mistake. So you're 2012, you got the little office, you got the website, you're Jeff of Foundation First Property Group, and you guys are doing it. What changes 5 years later when you're like, I'm going to start taking on the responsibility of doing this for others? What's that like? Why?
At some point in time, it became a full-time job, either overseeing the flips, doing some work on the flips, rehabbing the foreclosed properties that we were buying, even for a buy and hold. And then the managing the property, showing the property, screening the tenants, doing everything that was involved. And it was a leap of faith to quit the full-time jobs and be doing this full-time. And in 2013, I decided to get my real estate license. And the only reason I wanted to get my real estate license really was because I wanted to get the commission on properties that I was buying, that I was selling, knowing that I could do better research on prospective properties that I might buy. I can be in the MLS more regularly, and the old agent I was using wasn't keeping up. He was just giving me very wide ranges. If I were to purchase this property and fix it up, and you know the standards of how we fix it up, what do you think it could sell for? Probably between $100,000 and $150,000. Well, thanks, Sherlock. I mean, I could do that. I could throw numbers like that out. I'm looking for you to say 120 to 130 or something like that. Narrow it down a little bit. So I said, I can do a job like this. But having your real estate license, there are a lot of dues. There are a lot of fees involved.
To be a member of the MLS. And
absolutely.
The
National Association of Realtors, Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, local association, lockbox dues, MLS dues. I mean, thousands of dollars it adds up to. Yeah. And so to only purchase 2 properties a year, and we're talking $50,000, $70,000 properties, and only the one that's a fix and flip, maybe selling it for $150,000, it wasn't there. Yeah. So I said, I might as well do a few listings and sales. I might as well actually become more of a full-time realtor and do listings and sales. And so I did that for a number of years. And as we were still growing our portfolio, we were still doing our own property management, I began to think, I don't hate landlording as much as many people do.
Yeah.
And maybe I should get my broker's license and to be able to start managing for other people. So we still used our Foundation First Property Group name. That became the brokerage once I got my broker's license. And in 2017, we were officially able to open up and start managing for other people.
You've heard it 1,000 times. Your network is your net worth. But what are you actually doing about it? See, the most successful people I know dedicate time and money to growing and strengthening their networks. And I don't mean by joining Facebook groups and posting that you're looking for deals. Here's a tip: that doesn't work. You have to be in person with people who share your interests and be willing to help each other. At the Williamsport Area Real Estate Investors Meetup, the largest in the region, we do just that. We're focused on making sure you meet people that help you achieve your goals. This isn't one of those events where speakers pitch you their overpriced courses or books. Nope. We bring in legit experts to drop actual value, and it's totally free. For now. But don't hold me to that forever, because this is too good and the room only holds so many. Get the dates, times, and speaker lineup at holditwithpmgen.com. That's holditwithpmgen.com, and I will see you there.
Wow. What's the biggest difference between managing for yourself and managing for other people? Like, what's the thing that you kind of wish you had been warned about if you reflect back to 2017 when you opened those doors?
One of the most difficult things, I think, is if we have 40 or 50 different owners, you've got 40 or 50 different expectations on how we should do things, how much money we should spend on a certain repair. And that's one of the struggles. We do try to be good stewards of our owners' money. We do not want to be wasteful. We do not want to have a negative reputation with our owners of being wasteful. And sometimes we have to make a decision when there's a repair, when there's a maintenance item that comes up. Do we do the $100 lipstick on a pig approach that's not going to last long term?
Right.
Or do we spend the $400 or $500? It's going to be more of a long-term approach. And we're trying to keep these decisions in-house. We're not trying to, it's not scalable to have to call the owners on every issue asking for permission.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do. But we have to hear about it from time to time when they find out that there was a $400 to do this or to do that. And sometimes we feel like we have to defend ourselves to say, well, it's because of this and because of that. And we've already had this issue once before, so we want to fix it once and for all. So it's just all these different expectations. So one of the end goals that I think I have, that we would like to have, is to grow the personal portfolio large enough so we're only managing our own assets and not managing for other people.
Sure.
Because that's one of the most difficult things, I think, is just different people's expectations.
Yeah. You know, I'll ask the same question of you, Jessy, even though this is Jeff's interview. What do you think is the thing you wish you would have been told about managing other people's properties in the beginning? You know, Jeff mentions the other people's expectation. You know, he was doing this successfully for many years. Seemingly, that's why they picked him, is because he's a successful investor. What are you surprised about that comes up with managing other people's real estate?
I think the hardest thing for me is keeping perspective that for every time I don't have to defend a decision is a time that trust was extended to me.
Yeah.
And that's really important because I oversee all the maintenance and construction at One Focus, and ultimately that seems to be what gets the blood boiling the most, and thousands of work orders completed every year. And maybe there is one or two a month that I do have to put up a defense about, but then how many of those did I not have to put up a defense about? So keeping that perspective, I think, is the hardest part. And every time, you know, you don't get a low Google review, every time you don't get an owner phone call. Of course, we send out our owner statements once a month and their distributions, and we get a handful of owner calls every month. Hey, what's this charge about? Why is this that much? Can you explain to me this or that or the other thing? And I have to remember, out of our, round figures, 180 to 200 property owners we manage for, how many did I not get a call from?
Right.
And how
1%
successful
of our
is that?
client base is 2 calls, like-
Right. And in just keeping that perspective, I think is so crucial, because those were 98% happy clients, and the other 2% weren't unhappy, but they had good questions, and most of the time we reach
Right.
an agreement or an understanding that everyone did the best they could in that scenario, and were the best stewards, and we do just fine. But keeping that perspective is the hardest part.
Yeah, building trust is something we don't talk enough about, even though we depend very much on it professionally. That brings us to our next segment. We call it Hold for Gold. Stories that let us know how we can hold our properties and make more money. And Jeff, we're going to do a little exchangey here. We're all going to give our best tip. And I'll paint the picture. You've come upon a 4-unit. It's your classic under market rent, little deferred maintenance, just needs a little love and to be held forever and ever. When you come in, what's one of your favorite tricks to throw at it to increase revenue, increase value of that property?
I think that's kind of a multi-step answer. So number one, my first step is, because I do listings and sales, I love to be involved with that client, with that buyer from the very beginning. I want to be representing that buyer so I can advise on a good purchase price for the property. Inevitably, what happens when they call me and say, Agent X down the road, I'm under contract with them to purchase a property, I already know you're probably overpaying, because Agent X knows nothing about investing. They know nothing about running the numbers to purchase an investment property. Yeah. So when I take you on, if I don't set the correct expectations right from the beginning, it's going to be my fault when things are breaking down. It's going to be my fault when your budget expectations are not met, because you went in overpaying, and somehow now that's going to be my fault.
Try to stop the bleed from the beginning.
Exactly.
Well, an agent down the road who only represents the sale, that agent is signing up for a fling with you, whereas you're signing up to marry that person for the long haul, and you have a lot of stake in it as well.
And that's what we call the relationship versus the transactional. The real estate agent who's just doing a sale, they might see that person when they're looking to buy or sell again in 5 years. It's just a transaction. They may send them a calendar once a year. They may send something every now and again. But I have to deal with this client every single month.
And that agent's going to make, in central Pennsylvania, $5,000 at that closing, and they're done with it forever. How long are you going to have to manage that small, modest 2-unit to make $5,000?
A long time and a lot of headaches.
There you go. And you are sitting on the risk, right? Because
exactly.
He or she could have said any number of things that do or don't pan out. Very, very interesting. Jessy, what would you throw at a 4-unit, classic 4-unit, to jump that value up?
I mean, the options are, well, they're not endless, but there's quite a handful. And most often we see when these under market rent opportunities come in, right off the bat, you see there's that room for improvement in the rental income. And what I've seen be successful so many times is building that trust with the tenant off the bat by getting the deferred maintenance taken care of, by showing up in person and introducing yourself and asking them whether the owner has owned it for a while or they just bought it. What are some of your concerns that haven't been taken care of, tenant? What are some of your concerns about your longevity here and whatnot? And we can see which of those things can be taken care of and addressed, and what we can do to address or adjust their expectations separate from that, and then ultimately work toward market rent and putting a plan in place to get them toward market rent. But you buy yourself a lot of trust when, this person may have been tripping over that threshold between their kitchen and dining room and their faucet's been leaking, or there's that draft around the front door. nuisance things that maybe weren't even a health and safety issue, but were nuisance things. And just by marginally improving their quality of life or addressing real health and safety issues, you buy yourself such good favor by doing that. And ultimately you can move the needle on that market rent with little to no interruption. I think that's just off the bat something I would do.
And I just want to throw in real quick, it doesn't get talked about too much, but the term gentrification, where you're having a downtown area, not necessarily distressed, but lower income, where people who are on fixed income, this is all they can afford. They can only afford a $500 a month unit. And it's functional. It works fine. The carpet may be a little threadbare, and it's not up to the standards that I would like to see. But when gentrification happens, now you have some larger company come in and they're wanting to either tear down or rehab all these buildings on this city block to go from $500 a month rental to $1,500 a month rental. So you're really changing the face of that neighborhood. And the question in my mind is always, well, where are those $500 a month people going to go? They've had a nice, relatively safe and stable neighborhood, but now, in my mind, in Hanover, they're probably going to have to go to York City somewhere to find $500 a month rent in a not safe area. So that's something I usually bring up to my investors as well. Just be careful. I know you may have dollar signs in your eyes, and you can envision doing something major to this 6-unit building in town. But how are you going to change the makeup of the neighborhood? What are you going to do to these people who truly have no place to go? So when I think about your question, if the tenant is truly strapped and it's all they can afford, I agree with Jessy. It's doing the basic goodwill. Your rents still may need to be raised a little bit to get up with market rent, but it's not necessarily the full-blown rehab to, okay, we need to increase from 500 to 1,000 or something like that because I overpaid for the property, so I need to get that increased rent.
Sure.
Is real estate investment just so much harder than you thought? I know it seems unfair, but, and I say this with love, that's what the money's for. Taking the risk and figuring out the problems. And if you do it well, you are handsomely rewarded. Lucky for you, I've got 2 new events lined up that will change the game for you. First up, Deal Tours. Imagine spending an entire day with me, walking through multifamily properties available for sale, off market of course, breaking down the numbers and figuring out how to stabilize and add value like a pro. I am making that dream a reality, and whether you're actively buying or just sharpening your skills, this is where real investors learn to win. First one is in spring 2025. And this fall, the Buy Better, Hold Better Summit. 1 day, top-tier education, industry experts with experience in the North Central PA market who actually know what they're talking about, and the connections you need to make your investment success possible. Think of it as a masterclass in buy and hold real estate. Additionally, the room is full of people doing the same thing as you, so you can build that network with little effort. Don't forget, for the 4th year in a row, we are hosting our Williamsport area real estate investor meetups every other month in Linden. Want the inside track? Of course you do. Go to holditwithpmgen.com and register for event updates. And while you're at it, follow me, Hold It with PM Gen, on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Helping real people grow real wealth with real estate.
I see your point very much, and the value add strategy I was going to share comes off in a bad light given what you just shared, but I'm going to do it anyway. and I'll share this. I hear you very much, and people being displaced economically out of their housing is not good. It is really, really bad, and it does change the face of neighborhoods. And all I know is I work with small investors, the same ones you work with, people just like you and I, and they deserve to make a return for the risk that they're taking. And what I see in my communities is housing that needs to be substantially improved. So from the standpoint of the example you gave, somebody's paying below market rent at around $500 for a substandard cosmetically unit, but it's, maybe class C. Health and safety is good, but it's class C. Okay, well, that property is continuing to degrade, right? And in order to have that perform, it needs to attract and retain qualified tenants. And there are qualified tenants at every price range. Qualified tenants rent and manage $500 leases very, very well, as do people with $5,000 rents. I'll say that. But when you have a property full of now deferred maintenance in need of capital improvements, properties need money. And not unfortunately, just a fact of the matter is, if you own real estate, you're paying market rate for debt, you're paying market rate for parts, repairs, taxes, insurance, all of it. And so to ask landlords, investors to accept below market revenue for things that cost them market prices to provide, I get it. I understand. But then maybe there's a responsibility, if we're protecting a social network, a group of people, then maybe that needs to come from a social political place and not from, at least my client shouldn't be forced to take below market rent. And I'll give you just an example, the scenario in a 4-unit, very classic, that you look at it and go, okay, 2 units are 10% under market, 1 unit's 20, or it was just rented, it's at market, and here's this other one. It's 50% of rent, but it's so-and-so. They're old, fixed income, nowhere to go, very with it. They keep an eye on everything. This is what you're told, right? I'm going to tell you, shortcut. Biggest liability, costing you the most money, that person, that tenant. Okay. And people say to me, what do you do? How the heck do you manage that? And I go, okay, well, I don't go in and kick them out with a big rubber boot. It's nothing like that. But I listen to them. I understand their situation. The story's always the same. I've been looking. There's nowhere for me to go. I've been looking. There's nowhere for me to go. There's nothing for me. I want out of here so bad, Mr. Landlord, right? And so I go, I understand. And I'll tell you what, how long have you been looking? Years. Okay. So I'm going to write you a 3-month lease under these same terms, right? Same rent, no change. But I'll tell you that every month or 2 months after that, it's going to go up. $50, $25, whatever it is. I've never had a tenant in this situation make it to the first rent increase. They provide their notice to vacate and they leave, because there are places for people to go, like at least qualified people. And it's not my job to solve, I didn't adopt you. When I bought this building, I didn't adopt you, Mr. Tenant. You're not now my child. You're not in the will. I don't have to invite you to Thanksgiving. None of that's required. But this is a market-based economy. And that's hard. It's hard. Housing and economics, oil and water. We don't like talking about it. Guys, thank you for sharing your strategies on how to make properties worth more. Let's move on to, hold on to that thought. We're going to answer our questions we get from our audience. And Jose in Pennsylvania says this: I haven't hired a property manager yet. I know that it is the next step in the pursuit of my goals, but I'm scared to give up control. I know nobody can do this as well as me. That sounds like you, Jeff, when you started Foundation First Property Group. What advice can you give me? So let's give him our best advice. What do we tell Jose? He knows he needs to make the leap, and he's clinging. He thinks nobody could possibly get the quarters out of the laundry machine every month. What do we tell Jose?
I say Jose's absolutely right, that nobody will manage the way he wants it.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Even as a property manager, I know I will not go out to that property. I will not do a drive-by weekly. I will not do a drive-by monthly. I will not analyze it. I will not do the things that a homeowner, a self-managing landlord would do to the property. Absolutely not. I don't have the time. That's not scalable. So I agree. That is potentially a fear that you will not be able to hire somebody who will do it exactly the way you will, or give it the attention that you will. But it's a matter of time versus money. Jose might be in the good position to start a management company. If he's minded to do so, maybe that's something he could do on the side, maybe get a remote professional to do some of the work. And that way he can still oversee things, but he's not doing the daily grunt work that needs to be done while still managing his properties.
It's a very casual thing you just threw out there that Jose could just develop systems and processes and then hire a remote professional to execute on them for you. Have you found that to be an easy process yourself?
No, I don't have that mind to do that. And but for Jose, I think one of the other options that he could have is if he is making a good salary at his job and he's finding that the burdens of playing property manager, he doesn't have time to attend his kids' sporting events. He is getting calls in the middle of the night for repairs. At what point in time is that worth paying a property manager for to get your life back, to focus on generating income for your family, to focus on finding more deals that are going to generate more passive income in the future? So, Jose, I would say stop worrying about finding a property manager that will do it exactly like you, but find one whose integrity and ethics are in line with what your expectations are, and free up some of that time.
Yeah. I would tell Jose, like, you have a vision, clearly. You have a big vision. Figure out what's in the way. For some people, it's money. Other people, it's time. As you said, it's time versus money. And if he's truly in a place where he cannot do more things, he's got family commitments, work commitments, whatever, or even just the demands of this, and you want to grow beyond it, you either need to give it up or figure it out. And you're right.
And that's one of the big things with us. We don't allow our owners to go into properties to do maintenance while we own them. To us, it's just a liability, and I don't want it. And that's the biggest hurdle for some of these owners to overcome. Oh, but I like tinkering on things. I like doing this. I like doing that. I know where everything is. That's great. Then why don't you keep managing it? Well, because I don't want to have to screen the tenants. I don't want to deal with tenant issues. I just want to be notified when things broke. Well, sorry, that's not the way we work. However, there are other property managers around us who probably will work with you, and that's fine. But we're just not a good fit for you.
Yeah, would they like running their property and having us come in and meddle around and meet everybody and say things, by the way, from a position of power and authority because they are the deed owner? It doesn't make our job any easier. Jessy, what do you think? What should we tell Jose? He says, I want to grow. I can't give up the control.
Well, we want Jose to grow too. And as scared as he is that we won't be able to execute on his vision the way he wants, we are equally as scared as he won't let us execute on his vision. We meet investors, small time, big time, all the time. And every new relationship with a property owner starts with that little tinge of anxiety that I hope they let us do this because our machine is our machine and it works because of the way we work it. And we can't have the micromanagement from our clients messing that up and whatnot. So we have to approach everything from this very trepidatious stand. Like we're gonna work on building trust with you, but at some point we have to sense that you are going to let us do this. We have different methods for that, of course, but he is scared and we are scared that he's not going to let us do that. So from that perspective, no one's looking to let each other down in this. No one. Yeah. So Jose, you can relax. And also Jose, please discuss your fears with your prospective property managers.
Yeah, we have to be a therapist sometimes to try to draw out what's holding you back. Because we can put out as many videos on our processes, we can put out as much written literature, and they may look at it one time, but they're still going to regurgitate a lot of these same fears or questions. And we just, as property managers, as professionals, we need to be ready for that and be ready to answer it.
Totally.
You know what's better than building generational wealth? Not a damn thing. And obviously the best way to do that is through buy and hold real estate. But let's be real, managing your properties yourself, that's a one-way ticket to burnout. This is supposed to be an investment, not a burden. At One Focus Property Management, we don't just manage your properties, We make buy and hold real estate actually work. We handle everything: tenant screening, maintenance, rent collection, you name it. All you do is watch your portfolio and net worth grow. We make sure you never even think about quitting real estate investing, because the secret to buy and hold is to hold it for a very long time. And you can't do that when you sell every time you have a problem. We're the biggest, baddest property management team in Lycoming, Clinton, Northumberland, Montour, and Columbia counties. And we do it all to give you more protection, less work, and absolutely no drama. So let's turn your rental properties into wealth building machines. Learn more at onefocuspm.com. That's onefocuspm.com.
Right. So talk about your fears with your property manager, and if they're not alleviated at all, maybe it isn't a good fit for you. And also really understand the management agreement you're signing, and if it's not working out for you, what do you do? How do you do it? And how quickly can it be done? So, our management agreement has terms that, I think alleviates a lot of concerns. The terms in our management agreement are a gesture of our confidence in our services to allow the relationship to be terminated with 30 days notice if you're not pleased with our services. And we operate our entire business, 600 doors and 180 plus clients on these 30-day terms. And I guess if they all banded together and dumped us, I guess we would probably make a run to LA and try to put this show on the road. But it could.
And I think about it from the perspective of like one really bad hire, right? If I don't have my finger on the pulse of things and my clients can get out with 30 days notice, and one employee could really start to mess things up on a large scale. Well, as we move toward the end of our program, we're going to come to my favorite segment, Hold My Drink. This is where we tell some of our best stories. As I often say, this industry pays almost entirely in cocktail stories. Unless you're buying and holding like secret millionaires here, Jeff and Wendy, and they've got a little fiefdom down there in Hanover. Don't let anybody. He pleads a plain case, but he's got something cooking down there. I want to know if you've ever had, either one of you, ever had to play detective to figure out what happened at a property, what really happened.
There was one time, one of the biggest struggles that we have, I think, is explaining to owners what happened, how it happened.
Why did they do that is their favorite question. Yeah. Why did they do that? And I'm like, that's not for me.
So before I even answer your question, I'll tell you the one that happened on one of our personal properties. Eviction had taken place, 30 days went by, junk was still in there. They never got the rest of it out. So we sent our crew in there to haul the rest of the stuff out. This was in probably a 1900s type of building. And the crew was cleaning stuff out. And one of them was pulling stuff out in a little crawl space area, hit a water supply line, and it burst. It was rusted.
Oopsie daisy.
And it was before the water meter. So there's no shut off in the house. So we've got to call the water company. They are busy with other things. We'll get out to it in a few hours. No, you don't understand.
And
the
Wendy
basement
just
is
has
getting
her
flooded.
finger on the end of it until then. Wendy just has to sit there.
She just puts it in the pipe.
There's a Dutch boy with a finger in a dike or whatever. But
what happened?
The guy who did it, the company who did it, I guess he heard from the plumber. It was like, it was a rusted pipe. So it was bound to happen sooner or later. And we asked him, is your insurance company going to get involved in this? And he's like, no. And I called my attorney and said, look, I'm not trying to be litigious here or anything. I'm not, but we're probably going to be paying an extra $1,000 in water bills for the water usage. We're going to have the cleanup. Who knows what else needs to be done. And he's like, it's not worth it. No court would, if it was truly rusted, if it was a 100-year-old pipe and it was on the verge of failure. So, and that was us. So, this is something we have to eat, and we're almost imploring the contractor, come on, man. But these contractors are hand to mouth for the most part. It's not like they have deep pockets. So this is just something, that we just kind of have to take. But the detective story is we had a tenant. He claimed that he was not in the vehicle, but somehow the vehicle started and it accelerated on its own into the shed on the property. Oh. And so we had to do a little digging work, and coincidentally, the cameras that he has set up at his property, for whatever reason, weren't working that day. So we didn't have any video evidence, but just trying to explain to the owner about what happened and trying to figure out, is the tenant's car insurance company liable for this? If he's spinning a story of, I wasn't in the car, I don't know what happened, or is the owner's landlord insurance covered? So it was just, we had to do a little digging, and it was just a hassle.
Oh, terrible. Jessy, it's one of your favorite things to do, is to nosy around in situations and get paid for it. So do you have a story about how you had to play a little detective?
Yeah, the Nosy Nelly detective agency is always
wholly owned subsidiary of One
It's
Focus.
a wholly owned subsidiary of One Focus Property Management, and we like the juice, the juicy scoop of all the stories. That's the best part. And most recently, I played detective, not on a property we managed, but on a property we were helping one of our clients, I guess, suss out a little bit. He was already under contract for it. And unfortunately, I do think the two of us took this deal down.
Just murdering
deals left and right. And it was a double, and I didn't know much about it. You were deciding to luxuriate on a vacation, and I went to see this deal with our out-of-town investor who was coming in to see his deal with me. And I understood that one side was vacant and one side was occupied, and there was a garage on a separate lease, and the garage was leased to the occupied unit as well for an additional fee. And when I got there, it was a side-by-side double, and the garage was on the right side of the building. And one could only suppose, using logic and experience, that if the power and whatnot were not metered to the right side, that they would be on their own meters. But the left side of this double was the one who leased this garage on the right side of the building. And I suspected that there was something amiss here with the utility consumption and who was paying for it. And then, so the left side was occupied, the right side was vacant, and there was a garage next to the right side that was leased to the left side. Followed that? Great. Mm-hmm. And we had heard that the day before, the realtor representing the buyer, who's our property management client, had discovered the power wasn't on. So they scrambled around to get the power on. We all assumed the power wasn't on to the vacant side. And when we arrived there, power is very on the vacant side. It was beautifully renovated. We go in that side first. What a steal, client. This is going great. And then we knock on the door of the occupied side, and they had been notified, and they answered the door, and they didn't want to let us in, yada, yada, yada. And they say, well, we don't have any power. Oh, you're the side without any power. So he doesn't want to let us in. I let the realtor figure that out. They have to earn their beans in this too. So you let me know when we can go in. Until then, I'm going to go around, take some notes and pictures of the exterior. And I see a big old heavy gauge extension cord running from the window of the garage across the backyard and into one of the back windows on the left side. And I squirrel my guy away in the back, and I was like, you see this? You see this big heavy cord? I think that the garage power is metered to the vacant side, and they're just hossing the power right into their unit. He's like, how could they do that? He says, how could they? Well, again, why would they do that? How could they do that? Right. I don't know, man, but they're doing it. So everyone agrees that everyone was notified in the right amount of time, and eventually, somewhat hostilely, were allowed entrance after I had sworn to this tenant that I would only be in less than 5 minutes, and I certainly would not take any pictures of videos in there. Big regrets on that promise. But I go in there, of all the things I see in there, dried out crusty fish and reptile tanks everywhere. No living
Any
critter.
fish and reptiles in there still? or
Not
remnants?
alive. It was just dried up, crusty, and then just shelves lining the wall of vitamins and supplements. Quite a health conscious fella, I think. And rotten food everywhere. Water all over the floors. Fridges thawed and opened. Dark tapestries as the curtains. And no power. It was dark and dank and nasty in there.
And Jen's on a luxurious vacation during
That's
this
right.
time.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going on a while about the dark and the dank and all of this.
And-
This sounds like a job that we pay you money for.
Yep, that's
Okay.
what the money's for, right?
That's
As I'm
famously
reminded,
our tagline at One Focus, and that's what the money's for.
this is not a volunteer gig. The moral of the story was the realtor, our client, could not believe that this I think it was just a man, doesn't matter, was stealing power.
Yeah.
And I had unearthed it all. And what are we going to do? I was like, I'm not going to do anything more than advise my property management client. And he didn't end up buying that building
Gosh,
there.
well, you just murdered that
A
deal.
real mystery solved.
Well, we solved a mystery, committed a murder, and everybody lived to tell the tale. Thank you, Jeff, so much for coming and joining us here today. If people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Certainly not on social media. I do not really have any social media presence.
But your
at
home
all.
address is?
You can just go to our website, Foundation First PG, as a property group, foundationfirstpg.com.
Thanks so much. And I'll remind you, time does heal all deals. And our sisters Wilson Phillips remind us to just hold on for one more day. Join us next time.